Good morning, dear children. So, today's British history lesson. In the last week, we discussed the life in an Islamic city. So, we discussed major three cities like Damascus, Mecca, and Baghdad. Then later on, we were dealing with Baghdad, mainly Baghdad. So, today's lesson. What was life like in an Islamic city? Part 2. So, we discussed part 1 in the previous class. So please take page number 176. We'll cover from 176 to 179. Okay. So the learning objective. Understand the lifestyle of people in Islamic cities. So in the previous class, we discussed about Baghdad, why Baghdad became the capital, what were the peculiarities of Baghdad, how was life in Baghdad, which all people lived in Baghdad, all these things we discussed. Now, in this topic, in this lesson or in this topic, we'll start with life at court. Okay? Life at court. We were talking about the rule of caliphs, remember. So, most people in Baghdad worked for caliph. Okay, caliph means the ruler. So, most people were working for caliph. Caliph lived a luxurious life. You all know that. So, he is the king, he is the ruler. So, he lived a luxurious life. Soldiers gave him protection and tight security. Okay, so most of the people were working for Caliph and most of them were soldiers. Okay, these soldiers gave protection and tight security for Caliph who lived a luxurious life. So if you read source 10 and source 11, you can understand how luxurious was Caliph's life. In source 10, it is explained that what were the belongings of Caliph. Okay, like 4,000 embroidered robes, 4,000 silk cloths, 2,000 pairs of trousers and so on. You can read it. So from that, we'll understand how luxurious life was that. Then he was holding so much expensive items. And then in source 11, they're explaining you who were the servants employed at the court of Caliphs. Okay, cheetah keepers were there, cheetah, the animal, okay. Cheetah were there as pets, then cheetah keepers were there, dog keepers were there, falconers were there, archers, runners, elephant keepers. So most of the animals were pets and all these pets were trained and looked after by people, workers. Okay, these people worked for Caliph. So that was a life at court. Now the next topic. How did people dress? So now we'll discuss the dressing styles of people, okay, in Baghdad at that period, okay, not now. All men wore turbans. Even now people are wearing turbans, but not so common. But in some areas of the world, people wear turbans as a traditional way, okay. Wealthy people owned several highly decorated turbans. As we all know, even today, we can see rich people are wearing a different kind of dress compared to that of poor people because poor people doesn't have money for buying such expensive things. That's it. So anyways, at that period also, wealthy people were wearing highly decorated turbans. Anyways, all the men, even if it is rich or poor, all were wearing turbans. And wealthy people will be wearing expensive turbans. The poor used simple strips of cloth. That means the cloth was like very less expensive turbans they used. Women did not wear the turban. Okay, so women were not wearing turban. Then after some 100 years of Prophet Muhammad and later on, women began to wear veils. They covered their faces and they began to wear veils. This modesty was clearly encouraged in the Quran and the Hadith. Okay, we all know that Quran and Hadith is encouraging for the women to wear veils. Okay, so this was the basic thing about how people dressed in that period in Baghdad. So most of all men wore turbans, and rich people were wearing expensive turbans, and poor were wearing less expensive turban. Women were not wearing turban. Instead, after some years, they started to wear veils, which was encouraged by Quran and Hadith. So now there's an interesting tradition over there. The length and color of your robe showed your status in society. But even now it is there. But still, this is something interesting. Even now you can see that if you're from a high status society, you will be wearing, your dressing style will be entirely different. Even now it is there, prevailing all over the world. But you can see in this one, why it is interesting is your robe. If the length of your robe can decide what is the status of you in the society. For example, the more important you were, the longer your robe was. So if your robe was very long, then you would be very important in the society. Okay, so your status will be very high. That was the tradition over there. See, it is interesting, right? So the robe showed your status in the society. So if the robe was very long, then you were so important. You were very, very important in the society. To wear black robe was a sign that you were in the service of Caliph. Okay, so it was a kind of uniform. So if you see a person wearing black robe, so you can understand that that person was working for Caliph. That was also there. Now we discussed about dressing style. Now next is about their eating habits. What did people eat? The favorite meal for both rich and poor people was called harissa. Okay, this was something very interesting as well as very important. At that period, even the rich and poor people all loved commonly one meal. The name of that meal is harissa. That was their favorite meal, even if it is rich or poor. This was a tasty but cheap meal of boiled meat with chicken and herbs. Okay, so that harissa was prepared by using boiled meat, chicken and herbs. Okay, herbs means leaves and all kinds of that. So that was why it was tasty and also it was cheap. That was why it can be affordable by rich as well as poor. It was cooked overnight. Okay, it was cooked overnight. Harissa was always the first dish served at weddings. Okay, harissa was there. It was served in weddings, even if it is rich people's or poor people. Apart from harissa, rich ate very differently from the poor. So harissa was only an exceptional case. All other food was different for rich as well as poor. For example, you can see source 15. Source 15 in page number 178. Source 15 from 9th to 3rd century records. So A is dinner for a poor family. So they are explaining you the dinner of a poor family. Cheap meat or small fish, rice bread, tristle, saffron, pickle, olive and vinegar, dates or oil cakes. Then dinner at court. Court means the Caliph's house. Okay. The Caliph ordered the number of main dishes prepared for each meal to be reduced to 12 and the number of sweets to 30. See, it was entirely different. The dishes were entirely different from compared to rich people as well as poor people. But only one exception case was that was harissa, which was a favorite meal for both rich as well as poor people. So last topic is making a living. How people in Baghdad made a living, how they earned money, what they worked for, what were they doing. That is the thing. In the countryside around Baghdad, most of the people were farmers. So most of the poor people who were living in the countryside around Baghdad, in the city, most of them were rich people only. We have studied it. Okay, we have discussed it. So most of the people were farmers in the countryside around Baghdad. There were a lot of other ways to make a living. Okay, so those ways it is explained in source 17. Street names in Baghdad's round city. Street of women, street of dungeon, street of water carriers, street of police, street of guards. From this you can understand different kinds of people were doing different jobs. Names in the suburbs. Bridge of the oil merchants, soap boilers quarter, road of the painter, canal diggers quarter, the place of the tanners, the cookmen's quarter. So from this you can understand that people worked as transport workers, water carriers, police, guards, oil merchants, soap boilers, painters, canal diggers, cooks, etc. So most of the poor people were farmers and some other people did, most of the rich people were merchants, businessmen, etc. And some others did some other jobs also, that is transport workers, water carriers, police, guards, oil merchants, soap boilers, painters, canal diggers, etc. So thank you dear children. So this is for today. So we'll start a next new topic in the next class. So you please do the worksheet, read the textbook, it is very important. Complete the worksheet and send it. I will give you the date. And thank you so much. Stay healthy. Take care. Bye-bye.